Time for a blade change on my DeWalt DW735. Planer. Have you ever put something away so you wouldn't forget where it was, then went to get it? And, well, here's my spare blades, and I just spent a half hour looking for them because I put them somewhere where I wouldn't forget where they were. And of course I forgot where they were. But I'm going to get you close up and show you how I do this. Coming up. Okay, so one thing I did do is I kept the wrench that came with it in the top of it where it belongs so I wouldn't lose that. First thing is to take out these 4 screws in the top. Well, actually the first thing is to make sure it's unplugged. You definitely don't want to be sticking your paws down in here if the thing's plugged in, if there's any chance at all that it could start. Those 4 screws loose and just lift off the cover, like so. Set that off to the side. You'll see down in here there are 3 red colored long wing nuts. Take those off. Then this little hood in here will lift up and out, like so. And this is a good time to do some cleaning while you're at it. Okay, what you're going to want to do next is to loosen the bolts that hold the knives in. And for that, you definitely need to wear gloves. I have here, these are cut resistant gloves. NC level cut level 2. And then once, well, you probably can't see that from that side, but there is a bracket you could push down over here that will lock it in place or to release it to be able to move it. And then when you let up, it'll kind of lock it there. And it's a matter of loosening all the screws. And there's a lot of them. You're going to be doing this quite a bit. Just looking at how bad that blade really was. I'd been doing a lot of work with some oak and some walnut. And then I noticed the blades would get pretty dull. Well, I had some old oak that came off of a church pew that had an old finish on it, and I thought, well, it'd be just a good way to end the life of these blades, just strip that finish off, because if you start stripping finish with a planer, you're going to dull them blades in a big hurry. And by the time I got done getting through those boards, this was really dull. But I already knew they needed to be replaced. I also found a nail, well, not really a nail, but a brad. That was enough to put a nick in it. But I knew they were going to be replaced. And the other side of these has already been used, so it's not like I can just turn them over. I got to put the new ones in. And incidentally, once this last spare set I have is used up on both sides, I'll be putting a helical head in here. This is what the screws look like. You want to make sure you don't lose them. I should have one of my little magnetic trays here, but I don't have it handy. Okay, and after you get the screws out, you'll have this black metal bar here. Which looks like this. And you want to make sure it's nice and clean. Then definitely wearing your gloves. Get that old blade out of there. There are a couple of locating pins on there. And that's what the blade looks like. And it's, yeah, it's dull. Let me grab one of the new ones. Knife edges are extremely sharp. Open with care. Actually, before I lay this in, I need to clean that up a little bit. You don't want anything on that surface that can make a bump. Or and as you lay your new blade in, the bevel side goes up. You see it's got a bevel on the end there. Get it down here where you can see it. That bevel side goes up as you're looking at it. Lay the bar back in place, lining it up with the little indicating holes. And you get to put all your screws back in. I just start them in. I don't tighten them down until I've got them all in. You definitely don't want to cross thread one. If it doesn't feel like it's going in right, you got to take a look if you got something in the threads or something got down in the hole. You may be tempted to use a Torx adapter on an impact. I wouldn't do that. Not on a machine. Just asking for trouble. I've heard of people stripping the heads out on these doing that. Trying to save just a couple minutes there is going to cost you a whole bunch of time and headaches and possibly some parts. And once you get them all in, then you go back and snug them down. What I do is I start in the middle and then work each way. Maybe that isn't absolutely necessary, but it just kind of makes sense. You definitely want to make sure you get them tight, because you don't want those coming loose. That could create all kinds of havoc. Okay, and after I get them all snugged down, I go back through and make sure I didn't miss anything. So as I said, if one of these bolts had come out while this was running, it's going to ruin a whole bunch of stuff, including your work. And next, just push that little lever down, rotate it to the next blade, and then I'm going to reposition the camera here so maybe you can get a little bit better look here what I'm doing. Hopefully that's not too dark in there. This is going to be blade number 2. And I'm looking at the next blade over and I can really see the nicks in it where I found that nail. And this is that little black bar you just need to lift out of there. Make sure it's clean. Let's take out the old blade. There again, it goes bevel up when you put the new one in, but you need to clean that bar off. You don't want anything under there that could possibly deflect the blade at all when you're torquing it down. There again, bevels up. These little pins right here correspond with these holes. Another thing you should make sure is to make sure your bolt threads are clean and not full of sawdust or chips or something, other kind of foreign matter, because that'll make it difficult for you to screw them back in. You may mess up the threads. And torque them down. And don't forget to go back and double check. Make sure you didn't skip one. Push the little lever down over here again. And rotate it over so you can do the last blade. Once you release that, it pretty much locks it there. Set the last blade in. There again, bevel up. Okay, next step is to put the shroud and the chute back in. It's also a good time to inspect this and make sure that there's not something down in there that is clogging or anything up in here that's creating any kind of obstructions. This is all clear, but it's always a good idea to take a look. Position this over here by the blower. And this is a line right here. Hopefully you can see that. And marked on here is open and close. You want to line this up where it says open with the mark on here. It'll slip right in. Then it just drops down. And it should line right up with your holes for your wing nuts or wing bolts. These little bright red guys. Well, it's lined up. Let's see what I'm doing there. You want to make sure you get these snug down. Don't really torque on them, you'll break them, but you want to make sure they're snug down so you get a airtight fit around the shroud, because that's what's picking up your dust and chips. Then you just set your cover back on. And okay, maybe you forgot which way you took it off. Little thing here says no step. That goes on the same side as the elevation crank. You'll also see on the front it says direction feed, because you're feeding from that side. And this is obviously the exit, that's where the exhaust chute is. This just slips back down on there. These don't need to be cranked down real hard either. Just get them down so they're snug. It's not going to go anywhere. And drop your wrench back in its storage spot. Okay, so how long did that take? Well, including messing with the video camera and everything, 25 minutes from start to finish. And I'm looking at these old blades, and I don't even think you could cut yourself on these. These are so dull. But there again, removing a finish with a planer is not the right thing to do, really. But since I knew I was at the end of life with these because I had some nicks in them, and I knew it was going to be a quick way to get that finish off. You also want to be very, very careful if you're doing that and where that dust and chips are going, because some of that stuff could be toxic, could have lead in it. Of course, this wasn't paint, this was just varnish, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're doing that type of thing. It's still better to use a stripper or a sander or something than a planer, but I just happened to have the opportunity and it fell in at the right time. But anyway, that's the way you change a set of blades on a DW735 DeWalt planer. It's not hard. It's a little bit time consuming, but it's not bad. So I hope you got something out of this. If you did, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. Of course, we're always looking for subscribers. Next to that subscribe button's a little bell. You click that bell, you'll be notified when I post another video. Otherwise, I'm Roger in the shop. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.